Good morning, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and today I'm joined with Liz Jakoi. Thank you so much, Liz, for giving me your time to talk about the past few months and what we've been dealing with in the current environment, and looking forward to what business is going to look like in the future, keeping a positive mindset and pivoting in your business and life. So thank you, Liz. If you want to give us a few words about who you are and what you're all about.
Sure. My name is Liz Jakoi, and thank you very much, Michele, for inviting me on here today. What I do is I just teach business professionals who, may be feeling that things aren't happening the way they should be in their life, move forward with energy and enthusiasm so they can spend 90% of their time in a state of peace and calm. And I do that because myself, over the last 40 years or so, have always been in this cycle of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and then I read a few books or try something new, and then I feel better again for a short time. So I've been searching for what's in that gap, why am I not able to sort of bridge that gap? And I found that what it was mindset, but it's more than just affirmations. It's more of a changing my thinking, changing my, not looking at everything as a disaster like I sometimes used to, but as an opportunity. So that's probably what we're going to talk a bit about today. So that's why I was so excited when you wanted to talk to me about that today, about the gifts and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. So that's exactly it. And I find for myself at the beginning of this pandemic, when everything started to get shut down and it was happening on pretty much an hourly basis, so many things were changing. I did feel myself getting, pulled into that whole black hole of fear and overwhelm and uncertainty about the future and what was happening. And social media was going very negative. I found that day, and it just, I just felt the need to do something, step into action and do something. So that's why I started doing these interviews in the first place. But it's understandable. I mean, it's something that we haven't experienced before. So it's the natural human instinct is always fear and survival. And I think that's what came out initially with the panic from people going to the grocery stores and the whole buying up of toilet paper that, that happened.
Yeah, we talked a bit about that earlier. Yeah, for sure. I know I have to admit the first couple of weeks too, because I didn't really know, like, what does this mean? And the only thing I remember trying to center myself was just look at it day by day. I used to just check in terms of on City Pulse 24. Didn't like to watch all the news and stuff, but would check in so that I would know what's available, what's not, what I can do and can't do, right? And so now it's become kind of normal, I guess, in a way.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we've all gone through that angst, right?
I think so. And initially, with everything changing so much, everybody was glued to the news. It was, just there was so much being updated and so much information. Again, it wasn't anything we've ever been through before. And even though we knew that the virus was there, it was like it was over in China and then Europe. But I don't think we all necessarily thought it was going to become a global pandemic the way that it has. Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of people went through that emotional roller coaster in the beginning of time. But for me, what I found is getting into a routine, getting up in the morning and getting ready for the day just boosts your confidence and makes you more productive and more centered, I guess, and ready for the day. It's, it's because it was very tempting to just lay in bed and watch Netflix if you felt that way. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's a distraction from how you're feeling, right? That
Right.
I usually try and tell people that, it's okay to do that once in a while, but if you're doing that on a daily basis, then we need to check into, what is the distraction, what is it that you're feeling. And it's typically when people aren't feeling well, I always tell them to check their thoughts, right? What are you thinking? Because the thinking happens sometimes could be what's causing us to feel bad and negative. And so that when I started recognizing that, then I saw, well, okay, well, maybe I need to change my thinking and recognize that this is a golden window of opportunity. Because even though the world is contracting, you know, there's this small window where if I put things into place now and use this time during the great pause, when we do get back to somewhat normal, then we can explode our businesses, right? So that's how I sort of envisioned, took a few weeks and said, okay, can't really do much until some of this, but this is a great time to work on my business, to refine my messaging, to do the things I need to do. So yeah, but even every now and then when I go out and so reality hits, because you're at home without your mask, and then you go out and it's like, oh yeah, masks, right? So
yeah, true. And I found that at the beginning as well. You know, when I was here in my studio and I'm doing interviews with people, or I was doing jewelry videos and working on my messaging and branding. But then when I had to go to the grocery store, it was like, oh, right. And then just at the beginning too, driving anywhere, it was just so deserted. The roads were so quiet. There's nobody. Then I'm driving on because I'm in the West End and on Bloor Street, and the shops are all closed up and everything. And then reality hits you, and then I felt myself getting kind of feeling sad again because of the reality. So your thoughts, you're right, your thoughts, and your thoughts can take you down such a hole when you start worrying about the future and all the possibilities of things that could happen. But you need to flip it around, as you were saying, to all the possibilities of what can happen and what you can create during this time.
I remember that kind of reminded me too, is I remember going to Costco and still trying to get used to the whole, you know, I was wearing gloves even and a mask and posting my picture on Facebook, and then I get all these comments about not needing gloves, and because I guess I wasn't keeping up with all the news about what's good, what's right. So I'm like, it's just gloves, right? But anyways, but I understood what they were saying. Afterwards, I did a little bit of research. But I remember even being at Costco, and you forget this, even though you're wearing a mask, sometimes I guess your thoughts, or you're finally in there after you go through that lineup, right?
Yeah, right.
And then get into Costco, and my mind is elsewhere. So I, walk up to the chicken fridge section and start looking at the chicken, and I forgot about social distancing, right? Because there were other people there. So I just walk up, my mind is elsewhere, right? I walk up and I start looking at the chicken, and then all of a sudden you feel these eyes, right, looking at you, and people turning and looking at you like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? And then I realized, oh, social distancing, right, sorry, right? You forget. So I kind of back off and I wait till they're done, and then I approach. So it's learning those little things too, because it's our minds, we get thoughts coming into our mind like 60, 70,000 thoughts a day, right? I can't remember how much a minute or so, but it just shows that, you're always thinking about other things. You're not just thinking about social distancing. So that was sort of a moment for me to recognize that, even in the stores, when I go in, I'm going to have to be a little more aware about, even though, I might be thinking about the book I just read or whatever's going on in my life, that I have to be a little more cognizant of social distancing, even in, when I'm looking at apples. And it's interesting. So it caused me a little bit of like, uh-oh, I did something wrong in that moment.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have been guilty of that, because just getting used to this whole new reality that we're in right now. So yeah, but at the same time, again, like we were saying before getting on here, we society, humanity, whatever you want to say, everybody was going at such a pace, always from one place to the next, always thinking of the next thing you have to do and your schedule going forward, or the next few days, or I'm going to rush off to appointments, take the kids somewhere, things like that. And all the distractions have been removed, and we had the chance to actually sit with ourselves and be present, which we never really had the time to do, or never made the time to do, I should say, because we have the same amount of time as we had before, 24 hours a day, but we just never made the time to take that time to be present with yourself, with your thoughts, and figure out, am I happy with what I'm doing?
Reflect, yeah. And that's what I see a lot of people who may have taken that time and done that pivot, recognizing that they really weren't happy what they were doing. Maybe they had a side hustle and it was an opportunity for them to use this time now to build that side hustle so they could maybe not go back to their corporate world. So I've seen a lot of that happen as well. So.
Right, exactly. And there's so much information out there too during this. As soon as we all, we all came and had to stay home, everybody was going online, and so many people offering their services and their expertise. And so anything you want to learn, you could learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything you wanted to do in your business that you always said, I don't have time, and maybe someday, again, it gave you the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I hear a lot of people creating more ebooks and working on a book in their business. Being able to, I find for myself, I was really starting to enjoy the online Zoom for networking groups, because I didn't have to spend that time to travel, save money in gas. And I felt I was more productive, because I could be productive right up until that 5 minutes before that Zoom call came on. And then even afterwards, I find the follow-up is a little bit better, because I used to not follow up very well, I'm going to admit, when I go to networking groups, because you get so caught up in your business, right? But I'm finding that now following up and actually booking time to get to know people better in your networking groups, I'm sort of making time now. I had time before, but more making time now, right? And not coming home from a networking group and just plopping down on the couch and chilling out for a bit, because the hour travel plus being there for 2 hours, the hour travel home, it's like my half day, where it's only 2 hours in the day now that I'm on networking. So big difference. Yeah.
Right.
In my business too.
Yeah, that, and also the fact that you can now connect with people on a global basis.
Oh yeah.
You're not restricted to just whoever else would drive to that networking event. Now it's open to, whoever's on the internet, which is the whole world. So there you are.
Yeah. Iceland, I've connected with people. India, Pakistan, it's interesting. England. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. For sure. And they're getting used to the different time zones, even across Canada and US. It's always trying that. Now the conversation has shifted too, is like, what's a good time, to what time zone are you in, so you can figure out how to schedule the call and be cognizant of, BC is 3 hours behind. So, if it's 11 o'clock here, it'll be 8 o'clock. So maybe that's not a good time. So I'll look for something in the afternoon, right? So it's interesting.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I know that a lot of the live in-person events that were scheduled to happen are now being moved to online, which gives the opportunity again for a global audience as well. Now that all that work has been done to create an online conference, even when we do go back to live events, those people that are hosting these events will be able to have both, have the online and have the live event. And then you might have the choice to, which way you want to attend, whether you want to attend in person or just online.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, moving forward, yeah, definitely there's going to be some changes, right? I don't know for how long they're good. Right now it's social distancing, but with the 10 same people. So I'm not sure how that would work. So that's why I think networking groups may stay online for a little bit longer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you're not going to get the 10 same people all the time.
I don't think we're going to see much in the way of networking events or anything live the rest of this year.
Not this year, for sure. Yeah.
For sure.
It's funny how everybody, I guess, was optimistic, because in March, April, and all these live events that even I was supposed to be part of got postponed to the fall. Yeah. And now even the fall, Now I'm getting emails that even September, October is getting postponed again. So it's interesting. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
fine. I think we're getting used to that now, right?
I
Yeah.
I think we are, and this is also the time to get creative
Hmm.
and think of different ways to do business. I know for myself, I had the vendor events that were coming up with, where I had vendor tables selling my jewelry, and now I have to get creative as to how I'm going to, be sharing my jewelry pieces with people online, because online is a different avenue than live when people can't touch and feel and things like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's a time for creativity, and it's also a time for collaboration. I
Right.
see a lot of people doing, getting together and collaborating with events and creating different online, whether it's a series of events or an all-day event or a couple hours or
Hmm.
whatever. This is the time to get creative.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and there's so many different platforms that people are trying out there that we've never even heard of. Well, Zoom is one great platform, but I'm trying to remember there was another one where people have a networking group. I forget the platform, what it's called. It's not coming to me now, but and then they can go into breakout rooms, like breakout tables, and it was interesting. Well, you could do breakout rooms in Zoom as well, but this one
Yeah,
was
this one had little tables with little like tables
mhm,
that showed. Yeah, I don't know what
Remo,
that is.
Remo, Remo.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
Yeah,
I
I
don't even
did
know
see
if that
that.
existed before, but it's kind of neat because I think it's like we're learning that all these things are existing. So I don't know if they existed even before the pandemic and we just didn't know about it, or or
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
E- exactly. We've been we've had no choice but to adopt technology and to get right
Hmm.
into learning technology and being able to look at the different forms of software, web conferencing, and things like that. Like you say, Zoom already existed, yeah, but not everybody was using it or knew. It wasn't a household name as it is now and has become. So we've like technology was already here, but not everybody was embracing it to the full extent or wanting to necessarily spend the time to learn things. And now it's fast tracked us.
Yeah,
We've had
it's
no choice.
exactly. Yeah. So we've had to embrace it in certain ways. And I know a lot of people are missing their buddies when it comes to networking and stuff, like the in-person, but there's no reason why, we can't sort of, I mean, you can still read body language, you can still read facial expressions. Um,
Right.
I think it's people are just talking about the contact. So hopefully that, if you get used to that sphere of 10 that you normally, up to 10 people with your family, I think I'm hearing people are getting together now with their family members and that sort of thing. So that's kind of nice. Um, I'm hoping
Yeah.
that they,
Well, it's summer. It's
it's
summer and it's
summer.
warm outside and it's nice outside. So everybody is, practicing social distancing or getting together with their family outside.
Mm,
And that's, yeah, they say that that's better than being inside but that's no different than any any virus.
hmm.
Obviously, outside is better for not catching things.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then we can have that kind of interaction. But this is getting we a lot of people are embracing video too,
Right.
where they didn't necessarily want to before. And now is the time that you really need to embrace video and work on your personal branding and things like that, because there's a lot of competition. I mean, there's just a lot of noise online.
Hmm.
So we need to stand out stand out
Hmm.
from the crowd.
Yeah, and I know you've got some wonderful pieces of jewelry that I can see behind you that I'm sure would help people with
Yes,
their
that's
branding and
especially
yeah.
with Zoom now. It doesn't matter, you see this whole the face and upper body and
Hmm.
whatever. So this is the the chance to have a way to be memorable for people.
Yeah, and it feels good to, you know, probably dress up and
It
do
does.
something different, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, boosts your confidence
boost your
and makes
confidence.
you feel great. So
Yeah,
yeah, for
for
sure.
sure.
Um, but again, it's just given us the whole opportunity to reflect and take a break, but also the earth. Look at the earth.
Oh, that's one of the things that I said, I think in the earlier videos when we were having like Zoom chats with friends on weekends, I said to them, and it was kind of, we had this profound discussion about how I said, I just feel like the earth has been screaming to us for years. I said, when you look around, trees that, you know, not all their limbs are growing, and when you look at plants that are dying, and when I've been driving along the highway in the summer, and you notice how many trees are not flourishing and how many are flourishing, and you know, why is that? That used to be going through my mind. And when I look at it now, and I think when they used to show the footprint that they called it, you know, with the pandemic before and after, because people stopped using cars and all the lighting and stuff, and what a difference. I mean, I think they even noticed right away I think pollution is the worst in LA, and they noticed right away how the smog had almost cleared in LA. It's still
Yeah.
bad pollution, but it's just amazing. And I think it's, you know, something that we've been thinking about, but taking, like maybe what you said earlier too, is we've been taking some things for granted. And I
Hmm.
think that's the earth as we've been taking for granted too, and
Oh yeah.
it's been screaming at us, and now we had to pay it. Now we're paying attention, right? So that's why I'm hoping that industry recognizes what it's been doing too, to the earth, and maybe, you know, the employers can now take some kind of environmental responsibility that they haven't before, right? So
Right. Exactly. And when you think about the fact that all of downtown Toronto, all the office buildings, everybody's now working from home, and they had to adapt to that, and very quickly they had to send everybody home to work from home. Um, you know, realizing that employees can work from home, they can do stuff, they actually can get work done, and they don't have to have somebody standing over them watching them all the time. So, you know, going forward, do they need to come into the office every single day during the week, or can they, you know, come in for certain days and then have other days at home or something like that, like the flexibility, because
yeah,
then we wouldn't have the cars going, you know, the cars
exactly.
going every day and creating the pollution and things like that. And as well, you'd be happier because you don't have to do that commute. You know, around Toronto, commuting is stressful.
Mm-hmm. Like some
It
people
really
commute
is.
anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a day. That's, you know, anywhere from, so that's a total
Yeah,
of three
you're
to
pretty
four
much
hours a day. It's crazy. It's half your day.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if you have to drive, if you have to drive on the
Mm-hmm.
401, it's just pure stress having to
Yeah.
deal with it.
One of the other things that I've been, and I used to, in early in my career, after I graduated from university from psychology back in the 80s, I went into human resources, and I went into human resources because I believed that's what it was. I was naive and an idealist, I guess, at the time, is that humans are resources for a company that we need to grow and develop so that the company can grow and develop. And of course, that didn't happen. So I'm thinking that with this pandemic, that maybe now they're going to recognize that. I know myself, when I worked in the corporate environment, I always showed up sick for work because I always felt I had to, because even if I wasn't feeling well, and save my sick days for those days when I was really, really sick, like with the fever and all that stuff, right?
Right.
And just thinking about how many germs I would spread, because next thing I know, somebody else got sick, or somebody came into work sick and then I got sick, right? And so now employers are probably recognizing that maybe, you know, they're not going to need a sort of a sick leave, because even, you know, because people may not be getting as sick now because they're not, one, spreading it around, two, um, they can be productive from work, from at home, right? And so they're not going to they're going to be less stressed. So when you're less stressed, your immune system is better,
Right.
right? So you're not going
Exactly.
to pick up bugs. And maybe they're going to recognize that, maybe they can trust their employees, and maybe this is a better alternative. Maybe they're going to save on real estate. I don't know. But they're going to have to figure that out too, because I'm sure that's a big cost right now with all that real estate sitting there. And they're
Yes.
going to have to get creative with that too, what to do, right? So,
Yes, they are.
right. But what's better, right? Treating employees as human development potential, right? And they're not going to get sick because they're at home, and then their families aren't going to get sick, and the kids aren't going to get sick. It's that whole vicious
A
cycle,
whole cycle. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So recognizing it, because I know myself, if I was working from home but still not kind of feeling good, might sleep in a bit and then work on the computer for a little bit, take a little nap, and then go back and work again. Like, I'm still going to be working, but I don't have to physically go in to the office and work. Maybe I could just do paperwork that day or whatever. And
Right,
even if
right.
I'm, right. So, and if I'm really, really sick, then maybe let my employer know, look, I'm just not going to be able to do anything today. So that's probably changing the employer's mind too, and viewing how they viewed human beings in terms of sick leave and being sick, and recognizing that, they were coming in. That kind of, sorry, I'm going on about this, but that kind of reminds me of my mom's in long-term care. And I was in Orlando, Florida, in an event when everything was starting to shut down. In fact, we were the only event that was still going on, because even Tony Robbins has closed down his event in Orlando when I was in Orlando. And I remember coming home, and I was, the very next day when I came home, I was concerned about my mom and the long-term care. And I phoned to see what was happening. And they said they shut their doors already, and people were getting upset because they couldn't come in to see their loved ones. And I'm like, what's wrong with these people? Like, don't they understand what's going on in the world, right? And she said, no. She says it's really hard for people to understand that, something is happening. Maybe they're not tuned into what that actually means. So I'm grateful because they were proactive.
Mm,
They shut the doors immediately. But even before that, whenever we had to come and go, we always had to, there was a sanitizing station. So we always had to sanitize them. And I'm grateful because there was no cases of COVID whatsoever. There were 2 employees that had the COVID. One employee, I think, worked in the office, so wasn't in contact with any of the residents. The other resident, because they did testing all the time, tested negative, was sent home. None of the residents, there was a respiratory illness outbreak, but it's normal. It wasn't
mm,
COVID related. And when I had my care conference the other day, because they have a care conference every year, you go in and you go over the meds and behaviors and all that kind of stuff. And I said to the girl, I said, you know what thing I've noticed? She goes, what? And I said, every year between November to probably March-ish, maybe even April, I get a call at least 3, 4 times saying, this unit is shut down because of respiratory outbreak. There's a respiratory outbreak here. And I said, constantly, I'm bombarded with these signs when I used to come in to visit my mom about, making sure he's sanitized because there's a respiratory outbreak, don't blah, blah, blah. And I said, other than that one that was ongoing like early in March because of whatever, I said, haven't been getting any calls. So I'm wondering if there's a correlation
mm.
between us coming in and bringing
Yep.
in. And she said, even the employees used to come in sometimes when they were sick, right? And she said, but now they're told, like, you come in sick, you're going to get reprimanded, right? So big shift. And
Right.
so that was my mom's, that's Fairview Laws compared to, I guess, other homes that had a major outbreak.
Yeah, the ones in Toronto, and there's one right by me
Yeah.
as well that was
So
terrible outbreak there.
so I said, we were talking to her, and I said, yeah, it's really hard for me because I get to FaceTime with my mom 3 times a week. I don't get to see her in person. They have opened it up so that I can go see her, but I have to wear a mask and stay 6 feet away. There's a plexiglass. There's also, I have to bring my own chair. But I said to her, that's even going to be some more confusing to my mom because she's used to the FaceTime now. She's not going to understand why I'm wearing a mask. I don't wear a mask on FaceTime
No.
and that sort of thing. So the only other thing we talked about is I can come in and do a window, like inside window to window, but then she's not going to understand why I can't come and touch her and talk to her and all those things. So those
Right.
are major changes too, for not for my mom, but she's gotten used to FaceTime. So I'm thinking I'm not going to move away from that now, right? Because I don't get to see her physically and touch her, but you know,
Yeah, you don't want to confuse the matter.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
true.
there's a good side and a bad side to it as well. But those are the realities. So in terms of the workplace, even schools, kids probably aren't getting sick. They're at home.
Right. Well, yeah, and if you think about that, schools were always a haven for
Hmm.
sickness. As soon as September, school started in September, and by like the second week or third week, everybody was all sick.
And then bringing it
Um,
home, and yeah,
yeah, and it was always the case every year. So, yeah, for sure.
that's a whole new
Yeah,
system happening there too now.
and
So
that's the other thing that really, again, just needed an up. It needs an Yeah, it needs to be updated. The whole school system is archaic, and um, there was all the pushback against online schooling, and then that's what it ended up having to be. So who knows what it's going to look like in September? Might be a mix of kids going a few days and then a few days at home. I don't know. Who knows?
they'll
They have
figure it
three
out.
different scenarios, but they were able to also adapt to something, some
Mm,
version of online schooling pretty quickly as well. But again, that was going back to thinking that this was we were 2-3 weeks at the beginning,
temporary. Yep.
and we thought maybe a month, maybe it'll be 6 weeks, and then people will come back,
Mm,
everything will reopen. But as we see it, for Toronto, we just reopened. When was it? I guess a couple of weeks ago, but for the hair salons and nail salons. But
I know. I can hardly wait. That's my only. Like, it's funny. It's like, okay, I can't go to the hairdresser, so I kind of like, okay, I can't. But now it was funny because as soon as I booked the appointment, now I have to wait 4 weeks, and it's like, oh my God, I can't take it. But until that point, it wasn't, I couldn't take it anymore. I just kind of accepted that I couldn't get it done. And now
right,
it's like,
and
I
now
can't
that you
take
have
it
it,
anymore. It's
yeah,
funny, eh? It's like the opposite reaction. Like, you'd think
right,
I'd have that reaction in the beginning. It's like, oh my God, I can't go to the hairdresser. But I'm having that reaction now because, well, I actually get to do it on the 16th next. So it's a week away. So it's not
on
too
the
bad.
16th. Oh, that's when I
A
go too.
few more days.
I have
Yay.
my hair appointment that day too, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Although it's going to be different, having to wear a mask the whole time you're at the hair salon.
Oh, I heard that she
Uh,
can't blow dry my hair, they said.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the other
which,
thing.
yeah,
It's okay, it's summer, so you go
yeah,
outside, and it's different than if it was the winter and you're going out with soaking wet hair.
yeah, for sure. Well,
um
yeah. So that's going to be different. Schools. Oh, my daughter has, she goes to George Brown. She takes culinary. So she was thinking originally, because originally they said there's not going to be any externship. It's like a co-op placement to go into to do our cooking and stuff in restaurants. And so she said, if they're not doing that, like, what's the point of me going to school then next year? Maybe I'll just take a year off
yeah,
work and then go back again. But then now I guess that was the initial suggestion, I think, that George Brown had in April, May. And now they've come back and said, no, we're pushing the externship off to January to April. And we'll do, like, they're switching the semesters around. So so now
so
she's happy about that. But it's still going to be online learning for some of the things.
right, yes, but they're planning that she would be able to then go into restaurants next year,
Yeah.
basically
Yeah,
January.
in
Oh, okay.
January. So I think because they're probably starting to put things in place, maybe, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's,
yeah.
because restaurants still have to flourish and
Oh, they do. I mean, now it's, they're able to open the patios. A lot of restaurants have been able to
mhm,
extend their patio footprint so that they can make up for the fact that the tables have to be so far apart. But again, it's still not replacing what they had when they have the inside of the restaurant open too. But it's
mhm.
good now because again, it's summer, so this is patio season, and we all know how much we love eating outside on patio because we especially after the winters that we have.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this spring was so cold too. We had in May it was still cold, so everybody's really appreciating the beautiful weather that we're having now. So at least that that's there for the restaurant owners, and the hair salons and nail salons again are being able to open, although it's at a reduced capacity too, so it's going to take them some time to catch up. The other issue is the gyms.
Oh, yeah.
I had an interview with somebody who had a physical brick and mortar gym facility, and he actually has decided to go to online, and he was at the end of his lease and just decided that he wasn't going to reopen, but because he was just saying that he doesn't even know when that's going to be allowed for them to reopen. And even when they do, it's going to be at such a reduced capacity. And then the sanitizing that's required, and the whole reason that people go to gyms instead of working out at home is to be there with other people, giving you the motivation to, exercise and things like that. And he was suggesting that perhaps, it's going to be one person allowed in at a time or something crazy. So he doesn't even know how it's going to work. So yeah, there's a lot of things that have to change, and just again, it's about getting creative, and this is also a time when innovation happens.
Right. Well, they also say that during these times, when you look back on the Depression and 2009, the .com that went bust, and all those times where we had sort of a financial crisis or some kind of crisis in the world, they say that many millionaires and billionaires were made out of that, right? Because those are the people that thought, okay, time to pivot, time to change things. Now's the time. I've always been thinking about doing something differently, right? And so they used that time to sort of create, develop, and implement, and then come out of it exploding when things went back to normal. So definitely a good time to innovate.
Right. And also it's also the time to consider any opportunities, because before we might be so busy that we don't have time to see the opportunities that come to us, and we're always ready to we're just focused on whatever we're focused on and not open to the opportunities. But now that we have had to slow down and look at things so differently, we need to be open to those opportunities,
in a way,
not and not ready to just say, oh no, I'm doing this or something, just because things are changing, and who would have ever thought that everything which could shut down the way it did. So just imagine, the opposite, and if you could spread kindness through the world or do something to change the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, because I guess, like I originally said, one of the reasons I got into the work that I've always done most of my life was because I always believed in human potential and growing and developing humans, and what a better way. And that when I was studying human resources, it's kind of interesting, back in the 80s, because I took some nighttime courses as well to get my designation back then. But we talked about having a world or more leisure time, that only working like the 8:30 to 4:30, the 9 to 5, going after, I think, is it Switzerland or Sweden where they do it? They have so much more leisure time, and that so that there is that real balance, and that they thought that technology would help us have that balance in life, so that but it created the opposite. We're supposed to be paperless society, and in fact I think it created the opposite. So oftentimes that's when this happened, I thought, okay, maybe now people are going to realize, from coming out of this, how important it is only to work 8:30 to 4:30 and spend quality time, because now you're forced to spend, during that lockdown, they were forced to spend quality time with their kids and family, or their immediate only, right? Or whoever lived in that household. So that's what I'm hoping coming out of this, that people got used to that, and now and employers are going to now see, okay, we've had this 24/7. It's time to sort of reduce that, because it's really important, because we see that our employees are productive. right? It's much better. I remember putting something on Facebook posts that, maybe this is a great time to realize that maybe we don't need Sunday shopping, right? I got a lot of flack for that too. Like, it's amazing how much flack you get for just expressing an opinion. But the reason why I said that is I remember when it came, I didn't want it. It's because I worked in retail. I liked having my Sundays off, and that was that conversation going on. And the one lady says, well, you shouldn't impose on people. And I said, but they imposed opening up Sunday. Like, why can't we go back to the reverse? I said, well, what about students that have to work? I said, I was a student. I was going to university, working at Simpsons. I don't know if anybody remembers Simpsons, in the shoe department. But I worked, because I was in school, I worked Friday night and all day Saturday so that I'd have spending money. I enjoyed having Sunday off because Sunday gave me an opportunity to catch up on my schooling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And during this time, we had to adapt to shorter hours at the grocery store. And some stores closed, like the liquor store was closed every Monday.
Right.
So, and everybody adapted to it, and everybody was okay.
And that's what I'm hoping that continues, because there's no, right? Because maybe that part of that whole opening Sunday up and 24/7 is like, there is no leisure time, right? So maybe now, managing our time better.
Everything's online too.
Yeah.
So everything's online if you want it. So you don't always have to go physically to the space, and so give the people an opportunity to have the time off, have a day off, and not feel, because if you're a store owner and you have to be open every 7 hours, you're expected to be open 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you don't get that break. Even if you have employees that are managing the store, it's open, anything can happen. So
yeah. So, and why not? I'm sure they could get the same amount of business in 5-6 days, right?
Yeah, because people would have to, just like when the grocery stores all of a sudden, had these reduced hours, and even Canada Post had reduced hours. So yeah, it's true.
And we still came out of it. We're still eating. We're still getting toilet paper. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I can't find still is quick rise yeast. It's the only thing I can't find still.
No,
I haven't checked lately, but every time I used to go to the grocery store, and so I had to adapt to using regular yeast and sort of proofing it first, like when we're making pizza and stuff at home. And we started making our own bread and stuff at home too. It was kind of interesting because we had time, right? And so we had to adapt to that as well, because we used to use quick rise in the bread machine. But now we found regular yeast finally.
Okay. Yeah.
But we couldn't find that for like 2-3 weeks.
No, that and flour.
And flour, right? But I don't even know now, because I bought up flour at Costco, like the big bag and stuff. So I'm not sure what's happening in that area. But, we had to learn and adapt as well. So there's a lot of learning and adapting and going on in that respect. Like you mentioned, technology.
True,
right?
There was, and also
cooking.
And cooking,
right?
people didn't. It wasn't the same thing where before we could just run to the grocery store if you forgot something, and you could go 5 minutes, be in and out. Now there were lines, and you had to line up to pay, and you had to stay, so far apart and all that stuff. So it wasn't it wasn't a quick in and out the way it used to be. So you just adapt to figuring out what can I use? What do I have in my fridge that I can use for tonight?
Or plan better, right? Do maybe some more planning ahead in terms of meal preparation. What am I going to need tomorrow? Maybe 3 days from now, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that you only go out once a week. Yeah. So it kind of forced us to develop better habits, maybe, right? Instead of reacting to, which is not a good state to be in either. Reacting to, oh my God, I don't have this in the house, I got to run out and get it, to sitting down in a peaceful, calm state and say, okay, what do we need to do? What do I need to do? What am I going to cook Saturday, Sunday, that sort of thing, right? So, yeah. Planning better. And when you're planning better, then you're in a better frame of mind. You're making better decisions. You have more clarity.
Yeah, and people were also eating better too when they're planning their meals, not rushing out and just grabbing something. So, Yeah, exactly. The fact that things were not available all the time, 24/7, that we were used to, made us figure out new ways of doing things
Hmm.
and adapting to that. So yeah, that's true as well. Okay, well, thank you so much. I think we've
Thank you.
come to the end of our time probably. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for talking to me this morning, Liz. All as I say, we've seen everybody come together as a community. And so going forward, let's hope we continue with this sense of community and helping one another and being better global citizens and respecting the earth as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come on and have a chat with you today. I
Oh, you're
enjoyed our
welcome. It's great.
conversation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And I will put your information up underneath this interview as well when I put it up online. So
Great.
thank
Thanks.
you. And bye, everybody.